Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the With You for You MSME webinar series presented by Reliance General Insurance and powered by FinancialExpress.com. As we celebrate this year's MSME Day dedicated to what is considered as India's economic backbone, the MSME sector. I'm Sandeep Soni, Senior Assistant Editor, FES Spy at FinancialExpress.com and moderator for the With You for You MSME webinars, which is a free webinar series delving into the critical areas concerning the growth of the MSME ecosystem. Let's get straight into our first webinar titled Breaking the Glass Ceiling Overcoming Barriers in Women Entrepreneurship. Over the past few years, there are positive signs and growing efforts to support women led MSMEs in India. Government initiatives and private sector programs are increasingly focusing on promoting women's entrepreneurship through financial support, training, and mentorship. However, it still seems a long way to go. Socio-cultural norms, required access to affordable credit, skill gaps, and traditional gender roles significantly impact women's participation in entrepreneurial activities. Moreover, in many regions, women are expected to prioritize household responsibilities over professional aspirations, limiting their ability to pursue business opportunities. The first webinar with all women panelists will spotlight ways to capitalize on these opportunities through sustained and comprehensive efforts to address the likely socio-cultural barriers. It would also highlight how women entrepreneurs look at insurance to help them in business continuity. Joining the discussion today, we have four very eminent women speakers from their respective fields. In the alphabetical order, first we have Ms. Kanika Popat, CEO, Principal Officer, and Director at Shift Risk Insurance Brokers. With a dedicated team of 125 professionals across 4 locations, the company has been growing from strength to strength. Under her leadership, Shift Risk has flourished by implementing robust processes and fostering an inclusive work environment. She's an MBA Finance associate from Insurance Institute of India and is currently part of the 10,000 Women program from IIM Bangalore. Next, we have Ms. Radhika Shah, CEO and Director at RV Insurance Brokers. Starting as an intern at New India, she gained valuable insights and experience. Transitioning to IFCO Tokyo Insurance Company, Radhika honed her skills over 2 fruitful years. Joining RV alongside her father defined her trajectory, where she specialized in general insurance for the past 15 years. Beyond business, she advocates for women's education and entrepreneurship. Our next speaker is Ms. Sonal Jetli, the Gender Equality and Social Inclusion Practice Lead at global consulting firm Microsoft Consulting, MSC. She is also an executive committee member of the Women's Entrepreneurship Platform incubated at Niti Aayog. She is a gender and development finance professional with more than a decade of experience working on women's financial inclusion and economic empowerment. Our final speaker is Ms. Usha Jain, Executive Vice President, Coastal Insurance Brokers. She earlier retired as Chief Regional Manager from United India Insurance Company after successfully leading from the front. Ms. Jain has handled property, projects, and employee benefit portfolio of PSU and large corporates in the private sector. Thanks for taking time out, Ms. Jain, Ms. Jetli, Ms. Shah, Ms. Popat. Good morning. Ms. Jetli, I'll come to you first. Since we are talking about women entrepreneurship, and I've seen the share of women entrepreneurs, at least in the MSME sector, has been revolving around 15-20% at least over a decade or so. So the first question is around how do you see the current scenario of women-led entrepreneurs, the overall ecosystem for women businesses in India? How do you see their share of in the overall growth of country?
Thanks, Sandeep. So in terms of the entire ecosystem for women-led entrepreneurship in India, if you see that around 20% of our MSMEs are owned by women, and if you look at the startup space, around 18% are women-led enterprises. So, and if you see the quality and quantity of entrepreneurship of women across India, you will see that both in terms of quality and quantity, we need to really travel a very, very long way because when you see the quality of women-led enterprises, majority of our women-led enterprises are still concentrated in the informal sector. So around 98 to 99% of our women enterprises are concentrated in the informal sector. 66% of this entrepreneurship is in the non-farm sector, and the remaining around 34% is in the farm sector. also, if you see in terms of sectors, majority of our women-led enterprises are concentrated in a very few sectors. They're not evenly spread. So they're concentrated in sectors mostly close to manufacturing. So, for example, textiles, you'll find a lot of women wearing apparel, tobacco products, food processing, and also increasingly a lot of trade, retail trade and services. So they're not evenly spread, and that also means that they're not really present in very high growth sectors, which are, as per the economy, higher profit making sectors. They're still concentrated in very capital, labor intensive sectors. We're not necessarily that profit making in terms of economic growth. And also, if you see the overall MSME sector, majority of women-led enterprises are own account enterprises, also according to the KLFS survey that was released recently, which means that they are single person enterprises. So, of course, economic activity amongst women has increased. Self-employment has increased amongst women in the last 5 to 6 years. However, the quality of their enterprises needs to improve a lot for us to reach the pace of economic growth that we're aiming at.
Okay. Quality of enterprise you talked about. Ms. Radhika Shah, I'll come to you. When we talk about quality of enterprises, do you see that in relation to, the overall cultural norms and, societal expectations hindering not just, the ambitions of women entrepreneurs, but also the enterprises that they want to build, the quality of business that they want to build, like Ms. Chetli mentioned?
So I would say that I have a little difference of opinion in this now. Uh, Earlier, of course, there was a problem and a hindrance related to the societal norms and cultures and everything. I think by far and large now things are changing in a big way. The reason why I say this is because as Ms. Jaitley mentioned that there are a lot of women who are solopreneurs. When you say that there are solopreneurs, that means that they have some passion and talent in them which they want to keep it up then the other social norms and other social cultures. So with this enterprise, definitely as women entrepreneurs we have a long way to go, but I think we are definitely reaching that kind of goal in different sectors, may it be in informal way or may it be in a formal way. In fact, in a formal way also, women are getting some certain positions on a leadership role as well. Of course, their norms, their cultural norms and the societal norms do have the hindrance and the challenges and the struggles going on, but it is not the way like it was before. In fact, there is a very beautiful saying that behind every successful man there is always a woman behind them. But I think that kind of terminology has been changing, and behind every successful woman, I think there is a supportive man who is there, and because of them, the cultural norms in society is definitely changing. That is my opinion.
Okay. Kanika, do you agree with that, or do you think gender bias still exists?
Gender bias, I think, definitely exists, and
Okay.
we are still working on it. But we are very few of us right now in this space who are probably representing companies as CEOs or at those leadership positions. It is still, if we look at the proportion, I think in insurance, it would be hardly 5 to 10% of women who are at leadership positions.
I see.
The narrative really needs to change, not only in insurance, but in other areas as well. As you will see, women entrepreneurs always find it difficult to raise funds because there are a lot of biases which are attached to that because of our role of being a primary caregiver with someone. It is, we have to sort of balance it out. And so when we talk, we shouldn't be talking about equality now. I think it's more about, talking about equity, how we can sort of bring about the correct outcomes with probably different set of resources. So the quality definitely needs to improve. We have to create enterprises where we can, create employment, have more inclusive policies as far as women employees are concerned.
Okay. Ms. Chen, would you second that thought? Do you agree with that? And if so, can you share some examples from an
Yeah, thank you so much, Sandeep, for having me. And
Thank
I definitely share Kanika's thought on this because I've been
you.
in the insurance industry and been interacting with MSMEs, corporates, and
Uh-huh.
also having a PSU background. I've been looking into the rural empowerment schemes, which we were definitely given as targets. So
Mm-hmm.
in my experience, I've noticed that the representation of women as leaders in the insurance field, as Kanika rightly said, is abysmal actually. So if you
Mm.
see, the leadership crisis definitely exists in this space. And I completely agree with Kanika that we need to be seriously talking about gender equity. We need to be having inclusive boardrooms while extending, thinking about the gender specific problems that are there in extending finances, and also
Mm.
thinking about the collaterals. How are we going to work on the collaterals? How differently can we think about the financial instruments that we can put across to the women? And how can we bring them into this leadership space by making the mentorship more relevant to them, by bringing
Correct.
more examples of case studies where women have been very successful, starting from a very small beginning. To me,
Mm-hmm.
classic cases of the Lijjat Papad. You see the Lijjat Papad
Yeah.
starting with
Mm-hmm.
7 women who were
Mm.
absolutely, it was an extension of their kitchen.
Mm.
And see, for me, more than a man being behind a woman, I think the
Mm-hmm.
success for a woman is that she has to be behind herself. And
Very
she
interesting.
has to be the best person who's behind herself to, drive the engine for growth.
Mm-hmm.
And I would take it to the larger perspective a bit, because if you see, if you are looking at MSME as the growth engine, as we are all putting it, MSME
Mm.
is poised to be the growth engine not only towards GDP, but
Yeah.
also towards providing those 6 million jobs. 600 million
Absolutely.
jobs which are going to
Mm.
come begging by, say, 2030. You need to have that
Mm.
set up there. And what
Mm-hmm.
is the population of women in the country? In India,
Mm-hmm.
it is around 48.4 to 49%. Globally,
Mm.
it is, say, 50%. Out of this
Mm-hmm.
population in India, hardly 17% contributes to the GDP. So we
Mm-hmm.
have a huge gap by way of empowerment of
Okay.
women. So if
Mm-hmm.
this gap, as Kanika rightly says, needs to be addressed, if gender
Mm-hmm.
equity and inclusion are really working, we would not be
Mm.
looking at this gap.
Can you share some examples? Let's say you have been somewhere in some situation where you felt this, bias probably existing in the society. Maybe you have reached out to a bank and raising credit. Probably there's a difference that you notice. Some examples, some real life anecdotes.
I can share a real life example wherein, like, when we were doing this MSME products for all these small loans which are being extended by banks, the Shakti loan and
Mm-hmm. Uh-huh.
like I remember that I had personally, made it a part of the CSR program of certain corporates to fund the insurances,
Okay.
to put the insurances and also make them a part of the mentoring team. So
Uh-huh.
women wanted to explore areas of production. The,
Mm.
like, for example, it is okay when it's an extension of, say, a photocopy center, or they're trying to get into the packaging industry, the garment industry. So there, till the time it is okay. The moment the bank looks at a proposal wherein, say, women, I saw this live example of a woman wanting to put a lathe machine.
Okay.
See, and the kind of expression on the banker's face, the collaterals that she found it difficult to get, and because she was
Mm.
an ITI graduate. She had a diploma
Mm.
in ITI, and she had done her apprenticeship in SAIL, Bhilai Steel Plant, and she was a
Mm.
confident young girl who wanted to do that. But
Mm.
she did face a lot of gender bias, and there was a lot of backroom sniggering. But then we all got together and ensured that it happened, and it is a successful project in a very small way. So it does
Mm.
happen. We
Mm.
find it very difficult to put women out of the traditional spots or slots that we have allocated to them. The bias does
Mm.
exist. And
Mm.
more than the society, it is the fear of failure and the lack of confidence in the capabilities that is built into the women's ecosystem. That is built into her psyche. We need to get out of this psychological trap also. So
Mm.
it's not about only extending loans. It's about scaling up her business skills. It is about providing her the right environment, mentorship, collaborative networks, and also, the procurement network. So
Correct.
it's not simple. It's not very simple. We need to have all those things in place. See, if you look at countries which have been successful, for example, we take now the example of Ethiopia,
Okay.
where most of these centers, MSc units are flourishing. So what is Ethiopia doing? Ethiopia is giving a plug-in facility. There is a huge shed. Right? You come in with your abilities. You know how to manufacture, say, you know how to embroider. So you have a space wherein you plug in, you do your work, and there is a procurement chain which is ready. And you do that part and you go and you are an entrepreneur registered. So the balance is taken care of. So you
I
have
see.
huge facilities wherein
Resources.
factory sheds provide plug-in facilities. So
Mm-hmm.
your other, your clearances, your electricity and your office space, lease, rentals. It's like, in IT, how you share a workspace. Similarly, in manufacturing also, they have created these huge factory sheds. So we need to maybe look into countries which are successful and doing this better than us. What is it
Okay.
that they are doing which we are not doing?
Okay. So Ms. Jaitley, I'll come back to you. So Ms. Jain talked about resources, I think very critically resources, and also what she said is fear of failure, lack of confidence. Can you elaborate on this fear of failure, lack of confidence? Where does this come from? Is it because of the same old patriarchal society? I mean, how these things have shaped up over the years if we talk about improvement and enhancement?
Yeah, thanks, Sandeep. And Usha ji put it so well, actually. There is a lot of fear of failure and lack of confidence. So there is a huge gender gap in terms of confidence amongst young girls. So, and that is a part and parcel and a product and a manifestation of how we are shaped as a society. A very, highly patriarchal society where girls are still conditioned to be the primary caregivers, to get married and have a family, and men are conditioned to be the primary bread earners. So as long as you keep dividing those roles between the genders and not having an equal sort of equal sharing of household responsibilities between both the gender, and it starts really from the household level. So unless and until you have family support systems and families that say that both women and men, can take up whatever roles they choose to take up, unless it's about choice, really cannot change this. And there is a lot of confidence gap that needs to be bridged. And it, of course, can be seen in the kind of enterprises women take up. And it is a lot of social conditioning because you also have to see at the entire perspective of the care economy, because you do not have enough care infrastructure to support young parents, to support families who have caregiving responsibilities.
Absolutely.
It's not easy for women to take up entrepreneurial decisions wherein they're required to invest time. Time is the basic,
Time.
the most important currency we all have. If you are time poor, then it affects everything else that you try to take up. So if you take up an enterprise and being a primary caregiver in the family, you have to invest 7 to 8 hours or at least 5 hours of your time in unpaid caregiving. You cannot invest the same amount of time in your enterprise to make it profit making like men can do. So, and of course, it's not just time, it is everything else that compounds against you to put you in a secondary position vis-a-vis others who can take up
Absolutely.
an
No,
enterprise.
no,
So,
you said unpaid, but I think that's the most critical part, of a woman's life. I mean, it still remains unpaid, but I think I was looking at some reports which have calculated how much, that would probably amount to when if we talk about, paying for that particular, time that women invest in that. Mishra, so I'll come back to you. Uh, do you think while the growth is probably cropping up across segments, across areas where women are getting representation, uh, what are the areas which you think are lacking in the current framework in society? What are the areas that we need to, as women, need to focus more on to kind of, let's say, have transformational growth in business? What are those areas?
So technically, there are a couple of areas which I think that the transformation will definitely come in much better way for women.
Okay.
One is the networking. The networking platforms are pretty much available today for women as well. If we have chance of huge transformation in our country as well, there are other talents and skill sets which we need to develop at this stage as well. There are a lot of government policies which have been introduced by our government related to women, something called as Seekho or Kamau. There are a lot of other
Hmm.
government policies which are there in the market available for women. So there are different kinds of platforms, say as a private institution level or maybe at a government level, where the transformation for women as a whole can come into the picture. Of course, nevertheless, the support from the family background is very critical, very important. The right kind of education to women or to the girls is very necessary at the right age. Those are the different small things which I feel that the women entrepreneurship ladder can be built up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Understood. Understood. Ms. Forward, would you want to build on that? Do you agree with that? If yes, if you can explain that also, and also some examples, some anecdotes from your end also, where you have perhaps you felt this this bias against women entrepreneurs. Maybe some examples that you.
I would just like to share my personal example. I have been working for my company for past 13 years, built it together with my husband initially, and then he moved on to another venture wherein I took over as the CEO 2 years back. And they were the societal conditioning, basically what we look at every day. There were people who were near and dear ones. There were women around, and they came and told me n number of times, "Oh, so you are the CEO." And I would have these conversations with my husband where I would tell him, when you were the CEO, nobody came and asked you, "Oh, are you the CEO?" I said, why is a woman being a CEO being, I see Radhika smiling.
I
Because
have gone through the same thing.
yes, so I that would hit me, not because I was not confident about what I am doing. I know what I am doing and I know the path ahead, and I have given my blood and sweat to the company. But it was the people around, the near family, the friends, and they would be like, "Oh, so she is the CEO." So, it, these small ways of people trying to put you down, trying to tell you that maybe you're not enough, I think it somewhere hits all of us, how much ever brave we are. But of course, we know how to put it behind and keep going ahead. But this is what our society is. We are all educated. We are representing our company. We've been working in this industry. Then why do we face such questions?
Do you think there is a need for a separate sensitization at an early level among people of the country on women's role in in the business world? Do you think there is a need for kind of an education among people? And more than that, do you think there needs to be some specific focus on skill development, particularly for women entrepreneurs who want to run their businesses?
Sandeep, I would like to take this. What I feel is that we have lack of role models around us, lack of too many women who are doing well in their careers.
Hmm.
So the acceptance is not there for the
Hmm.
society. When we have more women contributing to the economic workforce, more women who are contributing in more than their primary caregiver roles, we will have our children who look up to us, our daughters, our sons who are looking at us as role models. And I really want this to happen, where our children start accepting that women can also be away due to work, not due to only travel, because mama also has an important meeting and she can travel for that. So we are the lucky ones probably who have a very supportive family, but it doesn't happen all the time. A lot of women are really struggling for that little space which they need to grow.
Hmm. Ms. Jaitley, do you think we have there's lack of women role models in the country?
Yeah, I think we need to come out with also disseminating and creating more awareness about the role models who are already there, because we also
Hmm.
a lot with rural India, with the self-help groups, with the whole SRLM system, and we see amazing and inspiring women who are making it despite all odds possible.
Mm-hmm.
So I think not enough stories are also getting out. So that's also one thing that we need to do is create more awareness of how women are creating successful enterprises irrespective of where they are and what income and socioeconomic class they are in, but they are creating success and they're creating extraordinary out of the ordinary or really out of nothing. So
Mm-hmm.
we really need to get those more and more stories out.
So when you talk to these women, as part of the MSc, what kind of stories you hear from women, when you talk about gender equality? What kind of experiences you listen from these women who perhaps want to start their business one day, or perhaps are running a one small micro enterprise or one person company?
So I think there is a lot of aspiration
Uh,
amongst the more we experience entrepreneurship development in diverse geographical areas, the more we see that there is huge aspiration to start enterprises, diversify their enterprises, and scale their
mhm,
enterprises. So,
mhm,
and what we also see that there is a lot of demand for entrepreneurship development support that is coming from
mhm,
women because, of course, they're facing multiple challenges. But a lot of those that support system is being provided in very, very different formats, either by the private sector or by the public sector. And
mhm,
for example, what a lot of our research says, and which is also corroborated with what we experience on ground, is that creating a successful enterprise is, of course, not just a function of finance. So,
mhm,
is that you need to provide a lot of ecosystem level support for women-led enterprises to succeed. And
mhm,
there are six critical ecosystem needs that need to be fulfilled as per our research at the Women Entrepreneurship Platform. And it starts from entrepreneurship promotion for young girls. So, going to tier two and tier three cities and creating awareness and aspiration for young girls to become entrepreneurs so that we create a future pipeline of young women
mhm,
entrepreneurs in every geography and every area. So, entrepreneurship promotion is very critical. Access to skilling and training, whether it is generic skills as an entrepreneur or it is specific skills related to your enterprise. Then, access to finance, access to markets. You also need a lot of business development and support services, whether it's digitization, compliance, legal, all of those support services are required. And last but not the least, a lot of mentoring and networking, which is often underrated. So you would be surprised to know that the Women Entrepreneurship Platform is now actually a one-stop shop for all entrepreneurship schemes that the government of India has, whether it's central government or state governments. There are more than 800 entrepreneurship schemes now you can find on the platform. So it's a one-stop shop for any woman entrepreneur who's looking
mhm,
how the government can support their enterprise. And you can actually filter it using your profile and you can see what you're eligible for and avail those schemes of the government of India. So there are a lot of efforts that are underway, and of course we need to fulfill a lot of these needs that I talked about to help women entrepreneurs graduate from just sort of necessity oriented to opportunity oriented enterprises, which ultimately create profits for them, wealth for them and their families, and also create employment for the country.
Ms. Jill, I'll come to you. And I specifically wanted to talk on, so you talked about Ethiopia, and that was probably a part of my next question, where we wanted to talk about, how global markets offer opportunities to, to women entrepreneurs. Some examples, some references where, we can probably imbibe some good practices, some best practices from other countries for development of women entrepreneurship in India.
Yeah, sure. See, if you look at the developments that have taken place in countries like, say, Denmark, say, Bangladesh, or
Mm-hmm,
also for that matter, Vietnam. If you
mm-hmm,
see, Vietnam and Bangladesh are standing out as two big examples of MSMEs really doing wonders. And also a very large population of women are participating in this success story. So how did this happen there? And what did they do right are the questions that we need to ask. So one thing which my research and my interaction across platforms brings to me is that instead of doing a lot of classroom and training, the training to women have been on site. Like how, for example, Sonal said that, we equip them, we catch them young, we actually show them the stories of success and bring in this aspiration for doing business, not out of necessity, but out of an opportunity to be empowered, but looking at it as an opportunity for empowerment. So if we want to work in that direction, we need to have a lot of on-site trainings, look into the areas of specialization that we can bring on site, and then do a lot of hand holding till the time that a kind of financial independence sets in. And also inculcate more business sense by way of protection of business, by way of insurances. Like what are the kind of products that you can offer? You move on from, say, simple products like offering cover against loss due to fire, burglary, and other things, to business losses. For example, there is a devastating fire. You've not only lost your capital, but you've lost the 10 to 20 lakhs of revenue which you would have earned out of that business. So we have to look into all these factors which are being stitched into an MSME enterprise in the global platform. If you see the global platform, and we also need to understand what are the free trade agreements that we have. Are we communicating these agreements that we have with various countries across the spectrum of MSMEs? Can we bring that also as a part of the documentation, wherein we give that service to the MSME women entrepreneurs, that you look at these areas. Here is where your free trade lies. Here is where opportunity lies. If you look at the global MSMEs that are doing well, it is more in the area of artisanal jewelry, Ayurveda products linked to wellness, and we are mixing tradition with innovation and weaving a very vibrant tapestry of MSME. These are pockets of excellence, and these pockets of excellence, how they have done well, and whether we can replicate them by first building on the existing skills, training, and then looking at the facilities that have been provided elsewhere. Can we also bring it to our country? So what others did right, also can we look at it? And what is good for our climate, right? What is good for our environment, and what is good based on the educational skills, and how can we scale it up?
Absolutely. Mishra, Ms. Jain already touched upon insurance, which was my next question. Insurance penetration, when we talk about MSME, is anyway, I would say, abysmally low. Within that, how do you see the insurance adoption among women-led enterprise, women-led MSMEs, and in both urban and rural areas? What can be done, by insurance brokers and insurance companies to address this, perhaps, low awareness and low penetration?
The first and foremost thing, I feel that the education related to insurance and the awareness related to insurance is very minimal. I'm sure Kanika and Ms. Jain would agree on this matter. That it's not only about women; it's also about it's generic. The overall insurance perspective as a product, as a service, it is being taken as not a necessary investment, but I would say that insurance as a whole is a necessity and should be mandatory in certain areas, even for women entrepreneurs. Because of the lack of education and awareness, they really have a very limitation understanding related to their own personal insurances, which they should also have a look at it, because there are various coverages in the market. There are a lot of women-centric products which are there in the market from the insurers end as well, related to business insurances also. There have been a kind of a hit back, saying that insurance is not required when it comes to business or when it comes to your own self. So a very nice example is during COVID. everybody was scared, and people have taken health insurances left, right, and center. After the COVID, there has been a decline again in the health insurance product, because they feel, we are quite sustained, and nothing is going to happen to us. When it comes to women entrepreneurs, that kind of inculcation, that kind of mindset has been deployed to them as well. So I think the lack of education and awareness is one of the biggest challenge here. And I think if we can definitely convey this kind of a promotion or a message, or come out with different kind of products which are related to women, women-centric, related to their business, I think we can definitely do wonders.
Okay, so Kanika, so Mish, like she pointed out, education and awareness is one aspect. But do you think we can have customized solutions, insurance solutions for women entrepreneurs to help them in business continuity, employee production, and support during crisis? Or, I mean, what could be specific solutions for women entrepreneurs?
So, well, I think specific solutions for women entrepreneurs wouldn't really work or aren't required, because they have to coexist in a market where there are male entrepreneurs and women entrepreneurs. You are in the same market competing for the same product. So the risk protection which you would need as a woman entrepreneur is going to be same as what a male counterpart would need. So I think specific solutions wouldn't help, but what we can do
Okay.
is probably simplify the
Mhm.
insurance jargons, have trainings for women, because women in India, have not been included in financial decision making. So at a very
Mhm.
fundamental level, women in households are not they are not a part of financial decision making process, wherein that's
Mhm.
why they lack the confidence probably to take the financial decisions and also choose the right insurance for them, because they are not
Mhm.
confident, because their brothers or their fathers or husbands are taking those financial decisions, and they do not have the confidence that I can make the right decision when it comes to insurance. So what we can do is probably have trainings, simplify insurance for them, but I think the solutions would more or less remain the same.
Okay. So, Ms. Jain, how do this challenge around education and awareness among women entrepreneurs, especially in semi-urban and rural areas?
See, as far as the challenges are concerned, as rightly pointed out by Kanika, we need to have awareness scaled up. Basically, if you can get into the semi-urban and rural areas, and the best way to do this insurance penetration is choose one among them. Like I would say that a model which can be emulated is, say you have a health worker there in the in the rural area. You catch up
Okay.
with that health worker and explain specific products and with the need of insurance. You visit that particular area with that health worker,
Mhm.
have a common meeting in that panchayat or the block district about the insurance benefits that the insurance can provide to the MSME, do
Mhm.
the handholding, and explain it to them in their local language. All
Can you give one example?
like I can give you one example. You have these beautiful small MSME package policies, right?
Uh-huh.
Right, they're very small, specifically tailor-made, say 20 lakhs, 30 lakhs, the
Mm.
maximum 1 crore is the sum insured. And these are
Mhm.
packages wherein your
Mhm.
property, to your burglary, to your equipments, to your personal accident, to everything is
Mhm.
covered there, including interruption and liability. So these are 6, 7 sections, which to somebody who's just become the entrepreneur for the first time, insurance, as rightly pointed out, women hardly take these financial decisions. So for them to understand that insurance covers that protection gap. What is the
Mhm.
basic for insurance is protection of your financial investment. So once that message is given, and it can be driven successfully by using these agencies. Actually, you have a bank correspondent, you have a, in the local terminology, if I use mitanin, these health workers who are
Okay.
reasonably well educated. And you also have, the government also introduces a lot of outsourced agencies which go to the bank and deliver medicines, healthcare medicines. So we have to use this network, because there is
Mhm.
one more constraint that the insurers, brokers, and everyone faces, that is the premium and the cost. The cost to the insurance company to do this program, and the cost to the channels to do this program, because we're looking at small premiums, very small premiums coming out of rural and semi-urban areas. So in order to garner this small premium, you need to use that same network, train the same set of people. So if you look at these choice centers which were opened by Government of India, the choice centers also have insurance as one of the subject. They do these small healthcare policies, MSME products also. So the choice centers which are opened in villages, where they double in as bank correspondents also, are the best centers to be used to train and also inculcate the message of insurance to the rural, in the rural and semi-urban areas. We use the bank's data to get hold of all the like MSMEs, to people to whom the loan has been extended. Even otherwise, the loan is linked to banking, and from bank it is linked to the insurance. And most of the insurance companies are there as channels. Most of the insurance companies are there as channels for distribution of products. Only thing is that we have to take it a bit further from being in the urban and areas in cities to the rural and semi-rural areas by looking at a different distribution channel. So it can be done, and we need to explain the products. And we have to move more from, using it as an instrument of fear, wherein you feel that in the event of a claim, it helps me, to an instrument of protection. Like it is going to protect my business. That is a basic, there is a basic function of insurance, to protect, to provide financial security. So this can be done. We need to use
Understood.
it in networks.
Understood. So, Mishra, do you think there could be some ways, where you can incentivize insurance adoption among women entrepreneurs? Ms. Chen talked about multiple aspects, but how we can, actually incentivize insurance adoption? Do you see any challenge from the insurance company side in reaching out to women entrepreneurs?
So currently, so earlier there was this issue, but I think now IRDA is trying to solve this problem by coming up with something called as Bima Vahak, where they are trying to get women on board as from Gram Panchayat. They are trying to create training programs for women, where the women can be one-stop shop solutions. They can give it to their rural areas and semi-rural areas. I think this is one kind of a very big revolutionary movement, wherein the IRDA themselves are coming forward and creating this whole channel of Bima Vahak through the insurance companies, so that the women women employment is increased, and secondly the awareness through women is increased, because women have a very good structure of problem solving approach. So I think they are really, maybe it is in the rural area or urban area or semi-rural areas, we have this problem solving approach in amongst us. So this is a very good way of inculcating and educating the other members, maybe in the family or in the villages, in the neighborhood, where the insurance can be penetrated to the grassroots level. So insurance companies are definitely going to get in touch because of Bima Vahak, where the employment are going to increase. The second, I would also say that they should come up with a lot of trainings for the women. Earlier in LIC, there were a lot of women as agents in the olden days, where they used to have door-to-door visits for their clientele, and trying to explain them and convince them to get the LIC policies done. In the similar way, I feel that structure or that distribution channel, especially for women, should be there for in private sectors of insurers as well, where I am sure women can definitely do wonders in that sector.
Great. Ms. Popat, anything
Just
from your
comment
end?
for a minute, Sandeep, on that.
Yeah,
Because
please.
what she's saying is absolutely right. Because when you use this Bima Vahak channel, or when we use women as the messengers for insurance, it works well, because they take the importance of insurance and the protection more seriously than male counterpart. And we've also had the success stories of women agents who have gone door to door and been more effective in delivering this message. And of course, this Vahak platform
Understood.
is a very, very wonderful platform.
Understood. Ms. Popat, do you agree with that, or there is something more that can be done?
No, I agree with this. I think the move of IRDA in this direction is well appreciated. But I think the crux for me would be to include women more in financial decision making and have more awareness campaigns, probably at insurer level also, more than incentivize. What we need is awareness and simplifying the product and making women understand that it's not something which is to be scared of, but rather this is like a protection instrument which will help their business, because one loss for an MSME can actually mean closure of a business at times. So I
True.
think
True.
just simplifying the product and making it easy and accessible for them to understand is what would help.
Understood. Understood. I think we are running out of time, but before we leave, I'll ask each one of you to have your parting thoughts. We can begin with Ms. Shetli on women entrepreneurship, not just insurance, but overall. As one summary, one brief on the subject.
Yeah, I think we need to make women's entrepreneurship in India safe. When I say safe, it's sustainable, autonomous, formal, and employment generating. Because
Mhm.
we are at a point in time in India's history wherein we really need to get more women working in the labor force, and
For
unless
sure.
we have greater participation of women, it's no longer an option. It's a brute economic
Yeah,
necessity for achieving India's vision of
absolutely.
Vision 2047 to be a developed economy. So unless and until we provide a lot of ecosystem level support and we provide a continuum of support to women entrepreneurs in every segment, in every geographic area, and in every socio-economic class, unless and until we are able to do that at scale, I don't think we can reach the goal that we're looking at. So I think that's
Understood.
really
Understood.
important.
Nisha, your 30-second parting thoughts.
So I would say that from insurance specific place, the more involvement of women is needed because they are quite innovative. Their problem solving approach is very good. If we can have a networking platform related to insurance, it would be very good for them, so that we can share those in valuable insights to them, which can definitely be a part of the IRDA program which they want to carry on with a Bima Vahak. That can be hand in hand worked out. And from a generic perspective, overall, I think as what Ms. Jetli rightly said, that the more and more awareness related to role models, related to the education part of how women entrepreneurship should go ahead, the more courage, more motivation is required for them.
Understood. Ms. Popat, your last thoughts.
So I think as far as women empowerment is concerned, we have to really work a lot at the fundamental level, wherein women
Mhm.
are accepted as women entrepreneurs, where they have something more to offer. Also, when it comes to networking platforms, there are a lot of, or rather, programs for entrepreneurship. I think there could be a good mix of where we have men and women coming together, because it's a world where we have to coexist. We
Yeah,
cannot have only women specific cohorts happening. And though we understand, and there are specific needs, but there has to be an ecosystem where we are involved with the men and not isolated as women entrepreneurs. We want to be
true.
entrepreneurs.
True. True. Ms. Shen.
I would say that, if globally we are 50% of the population and 48.5 or 49% in India, and when you're talking of national building, economic empowerment, then like how Vivekananda famously said, we can't expect the bird to fly with one wing. We know we need both the wings. So we need to have this inclusive space. We need to have this empowerment taking off, and we need to work at all levels: education, skill, mentoring, sharing the success stories, and bringing the spirit inside the young girls that we need to be taught to ignore the limits that have been put in their thought process. The spirit has to be freed, and then you provide education. Everything happens simultaneously. So the bird can fly when both the wings are there. So it is absolutely essential that we work with that kind of a spirit and idea in mind, that we need both man and women together, coming together, inclusive societies, inclusive boardrooms, inclusive workspaces, inclusive MSME sheds where men and women are working together. Why only think about WSMEs? We should be having MWSMEs, right? Thank you.
Great. Indeed. Indeed. I think MW, MSMEs, I think I leave my audience with that thought. Great. I think that was a lovely interaction with a lot of insights around scaling women entrepreneurship in India and the role insurance plays in uplifting the MSME business led by women in the country. So thank you, love. Thank you once again, Ms. Jaitley, Ms. Popat, Ms. Chen, Ms. Shah, for your thoughts. I'm sure our audience will also derive some knowledge and understanding on the subject. Thanks to our lovely audience also for tuning into the conversation. Goodbye. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.